Are you wasting your Google Ads budget? Do you know some of the telltale signs to look out for? If not, you're going to love this episode of T.E.A Talks. Let's get into it. Right, so Darren, here we are in the car once again for another T.E.A Talks. How are you doing, my friend?
Good, we're on the road.
We are. We're heading to London today.
Yes.
Looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I'm good, but I'm confused.
Go on, tell me why.
I hear you on the phone all the time with prospective clients, with current clients, all sorts of clients, and you're always talking about Google Ads, always talking about not utilizing it, always talking about wasting your Google Ads budget. And I hear the same things over and over. And
a bit like a broken record, aren't I?
I'm a simple creative man. I don't understand a lot of the technicalities,
the jargon that I speak,
but there are a few things that I do pick up on.
Go on.
And there are a lot of similarities with what you say with a lot of the same people, and it made me think. There's a lot of things that people don't know. There's a lot of things that people could very easily look out for. And make sure that they're not wasting their Google Ads budget. Which is why we want to do this episode.
It makes
because
sense.
It's just like gold dust. It's
I like to think so. I like to think. You are right. There are a lot of similarities. And I think when you mentioned that, I thought that actually will make a really good episode because, as you say, if we could just run through some of the commonalities, I guess, or some of the key things. So I'll kick us off. The first thing, I mean, there's so many things, but the first one is when I speak to prospective clients, it's actually, they're running Google Ads. Some of them will be spending hundreds, a couple of thousand a month. Some of them will be spending tens of thousands. And yet, when I sort of drill into the account, into how it's performing, a couple of things immediately jump out. One is, are they clear what role the Google Ads is playing in the overall commercial? Is there a clear plan on what we're putting in and what we're expecting out of the back of it, or are we just running ads in a kind of a hit and hope?
A lot of people they just don't even think about it. And I guess for some people they're so busy that they just don't have the time
it's another
to
tick
think
box.
about it.
Oh, Google Ads, it's on, we'll get what we get, and it amazes me. But I've got brands spending 10 grand, look at their 10 grand a month, and they're we don't really know, it just kind of works. And no, don't do that. That's the first way to very easily waste your budget. Is just not have clear commercials. So, have a clear plan. It's obvious, and a lot of these things I'm going to say are obvious, but they're still overlooked. They're still not done. So that's the first one, which is a really, an easy fix. Have a clear commercial plan. The second one, which is something, whenever I get access to an account and we go in and have a look at it, if we're talking to a prospective client, one of the very first things we'll do, whether they're selling online, so they're selling a product, or if they're service-based, is we'll look at what are they telling Google is a conversion. And this is because what you've got to do is make sure that it's very easy out of the box to have lots of things be triggered as a conversion. So you've got to make sure that if you're e-commerce, really you're only telling Google that, look, I only want to have a conversion, a sale count as being recorded as a conversion, not an add to basket, or not a start the checkout, or not a download this,
so
or whatever.
It's only when the checkout's gone through, the money's in.
Potentially that, but it's having that awareness, because the amount of accounts that I look at where they'll have all of the conversion goals on as a default. And there's nothing wrong with that, but what you need to do is you need to make sure that you have the key ones that are commercially valuable to a business as the primary, and then the rest are secondary.
Otherwise it looks like everything that's happening is a big win.
And that is, again, the reason that ends up wasting your ad budget is because Google goes, well, great, if you just want loads of brochure downloads, or loads of this, or loads of that, I'll get you loads of them. It optimizes its algorithm towards giving you more of those. Whereas actually you're thinking, well, no, really, I want sales, or I want leads, and it's focusing on getting me video views, or it's focusing on getting me, brochure downloads or whatever.
Well, video views are what we want.
Well,
quite.
So there's always it depends on what the goal is, but that's where if you start with that, what is the commercial plan, and then you work it backwards, very easily remedied. But it's just having an awareness of that, because the amount of accounts I'll look at, and they'll have all conversion goals enabled, and then actually I'll go, do you want all of these as primary? And they go, and they say, oh no, we only want that one. So very easily fixed. You just got to choose the right conversion goal, make sure that you are tracking accurately. So those are kind of at the very top, sort of base level, get your ducks in a row. Beyond that, there's a whole bunch of things within Google Ads that is incredibly easy to waste money.
I've heard you say words before, like search terms. And as I've said, I'm a simple creative man. What are these search terms you speak of?
You say it as if it's like such a foreign thing. Is what I'm talking about in that context, because it is funny because we sit opposite one another, and yet I am very aware that I am talking this like other language, this other world.
I see you on my screen all the time.
There you go.
I hear you in my ears.
Let's say you're welcome. But I'm very aware that I talk about this stuff, but you probably do is like most days. So. By the search terms, it's such a way, an easy way for brands to waste money.
Yes.
And that is, if you're running search ads, you typically will put in the terms that you're bidding on. So whether it's product terms or whatever you're bidding on in terms of, I want to show my ads when people search for X or Y.
Yeah.
Your search terms report is, you've put in, I want to appear for these search keywords.
Right.
The search terms report is a separate report in your Google Ads account where Google will say, look, you said you want to appear for these terms. Based on the match type, so phrase, exact or broad, Google will say, well, here's the search terms report of actually how people searched and what we showed your ads for, right? And the reason you need to keep a very close eye on that search terms report is because that will show you how people are searching and where you're spending your money. And so if you don't actively monitor that and make sure that regardless of the search keywords you've put in, the search terms report is showing, and you look at them and go, yeah, they're accurate, they work for my business. I'm not appearing for competitors. I'm not comparing for random non-commercial terms. And if you are, you need to exclude them. So I will regularly look through a search terms report and actually see that they're getting lots of searches, lots of clicks for things that, okay, there's a slight relevance, but there's no commercial intent. Therefore, do we want to be spending money? And so it's not uncommon.
So if you're Pizza Hut, you don't want Domino's as a search.
No, exactly. Well, I mean, you might. That might be part of your strategy, right? But it's one of those where typically you want to make sure that the terms that are coming up in your search terms report are relevant, and you would look at them and go, I'm happy to spend my money on these. Because if you're not, you want to exclude them, right?
And actually,
that's how you can waste budget.
It's worth bringing up something that I remember happening recently, where we had a case where someone's keywords and negative keywords were overlapping.
Yeah. I mean, this is what. So your negative keywords is then when you exclude keywords, you can then have a separate negative keyword list. And if you have that, you want to make sure that that's not conflicting, because otherwise you can be serving false positives. So it gets quite complicated. But the idea being, keep an eye. It's very easy to think your ads are performing well. If you're not monitoring those search terms and keeping a close eye on them, you can think by looking just at your search keywords, I'm getting lots of relevant clicks. But actually, are you? Go and look at your search terms, because I've seen it where I've looked at accounts and I've gone, you've spent 200 quid, 500 pounds on these search terms, which are not, there's no commercial intent there. They're never going to buy. Therefore, do we want? And when I've told prospective clients, and I did it just literally the other day, and I said, you spent like 200 quid on that. Have I? I had no idea.
Wow.
And it's, and that's only a couple £100, but still I'm like, well, £200 could have gone into something and been a lot better spent. And that was a one bloody keyword within a few, within a, sort of a 1 month period that I was looking at their data. It just shows you. So just, and again, you can do it yourself just by monitoring the search terms. They make it like a weekly check. Go in, am I happy that I'm just spending money on these search terms?
Wow.
Tell you another one, another key one which I've done at least twice in the last week alone. Is the geo-targeting. So
what's geo-targeting?
What I mean by that is, depending on your business, where do you want to run your ads? So a lot of brands will just go, I want to run the whole of the UK.
Okay.
But do you? Is that the right way to do it?
Surely, if I want more money, I want a bigger area.
Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. So sometimes, UK works, and if you're e-commerce, that can work a treat. But regardless of where you're targeting, and what we will do is, we will look at a brand and we will say, have they got any bricks and mortar stores? Do they service just a local area? And then what we will do is, you can set target radiuses. So you might say, well, we can service the whole of the UK. But what you want to do is look and go, but actually, really, if we look at our customer book, our client, but where do we mostly work? Okay, we do most of our work in London, or we do most of our work in the south of the country, or the north, or whatever it is. what you can do is set target radiuses. So you can have the UK, but as well as the UK, you can set and go, well, I'll have London as its own little entity, and then I'll have this, and then I'll have this as well.
Right.
And by having, you can layer those locations. What you can do is you can still target all of them, but it means you collate the data to actually, you can basically run a comparison, and you can see how does London in isolation compare to the whole of the UK? How does the south compare to the north? How does this? And just by setting those geo-targeting up like that, very effective. And I'll tell you another thing on that when it comes to that targeting is, as well as doing that, there's a setting in the settings of your Google Ads account within the location area. There's two options, and this is, I've seen this again literally just yesterday. I did this and I told someone, they were like, wow, okay, this is you need to fix this. And it's just a checkbox. There are two options when you're doing locations optimization. One is you can target your ads. The recommended option by Google is, I think it's something, this is not, don't quote me, but it basically says you can target low people based on that are in, regularly in, or have shown an interest in the area you're putting. So let's say you go, I only want to show my ads to London or to Oxfordshire or whatever. Once you've chosen your area, even if it's the whole of the UK, wherever you decide to target, if you can then say, there's two options. I want to show my ads to people in the target area, regularly in the target area, or people that shown an interest in the target area. That's the recommended option for Google. The second option is just only show my ads to people in or regularly in. The difference between the two is the third part, which is the or shown an interest in. Because what a mistake that I see and a way brands waste budget is they go, well, I only want to show my ads, particularly if you're a bricks and mortar business, if you only operate within a certain patch. You go, well, I only want to show my ads to people within a 20-mile radius, 30-mile radius. But then that's fine. You can set that and go, I only want to show my ads within a 30-mile radius. If you do that, but then you leave the option of in, regularly in, or shown an interest in, the shown an interest in means I could be in Scotland, right? But I could still show, the ad could still show for me because I've just shown an interest in, because randomly Google might interpret that what I'm looking for just happens to be a local, building company in Oxfordshire.
I'm a Scottish man.
Right.
But I have a fascination with London.
There you go.
So I'm always searching London.
Right, there you go. And if you leave that location option enabled, Google might look at that and go, you run the risk of it showing your ads. And again, you can go into the location settings and you can actually check your locations report. Are they showing your ads and have you been getting clicks? Because again, I pulled a report recently and they were only targeting a very set area, and yet I pulled the report and I was like, you're getting clicks from Liverpool and Manchester and Leeds. They were mortified. Really? We would never service that area. We work within a 10-15 mile radius of where we are. And I said, it's because you've got these enabled for in, regularly in, or shown an interest in. Very easy way to waste money.
Tell me about audience segments.
Audience segments. I love how you're mentioning these and you have no clue what they are.
You offend me, sir.
What you can do within your Google, basically Google, you can, depending on the type of ads you're going to run, you can help define your audience. So you can set the geo-targeting, you can choose your keywords, you can write your ads, you can do all of that good stuff. But what Google gives you is, within the audience section, is it gives you the ability to try and describe or your customer avatar. So there's lots of options. So there's like affinity audiences, and there's a whole bunch of different settings in there. But essentially, what it's giving you is a breakdown list of different ways to define the type of customer you're wanting to get in front of. So for example, let's say you're in the home improvement space, right? Let's say you're in that space and you want to target people that have an interest in, or have an affinity or an interest in, is a good way of describing it, in, people that are interested in home improvement, in the home, in the garden, that read these kind of publications, that shop online, that like DIY. So there's you haven't got all the options in the world, but you've got lots of options and you can just go through the list and sort of think, that feels relevant to who I'm trying to. You're trying to describe and define the type of person that might have an interest in your product. So it takes it from being, look, as long as I don't want to show my ad to everyone that might search for this, but what I want to try and do is hone in a little bit more and go, look, if they're searching for this, and I know they buy online, and I know they've recently moved, and I know they have an interest in home and garden and this and that, then the chances are they're more my target customer.
Well, you've said before, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one.
Yeah.
And I guess that it relates.
Yeah,
to
it kind of applies to it. Yeah.
And I also remember you were talking to someone recently where it was sort of a not to get into specifics, but it was more of a high-end purchase, let's say.
Yeah.
And they were targeting towards a younger demographic.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly that. And that's so you can. There's loads of options in there in terms of how they behave, what they do online, or do they shop online? This, that. There's a whole bunch of options, and depending on your business, depending on who you're targeting, you can just go through them. Do they feel relevant? Does that feel relevant? And it's a bit of a checklist. In addition to that, you then have the ability, as long as you've got it all set up, to plug in how they've previously interacted with your business. So it might be they've maybe previously been on the website, they have done this, they have done that. So there's lots of ways within there. And again, we look at accounts, and these are established accounts, and they're just not leveraging those audience segments. So it's a case of just be aware of it, go in and have a look and see what and you go, oh, and what's great is when you go into an account, if your account is running, Google will prompt you with what it thinks is most relevant. So you don't even have to work hard for it. You just go in and you go, okay, Google's telling me this feels relevant, and it even says, based on other advertisers like you, these are some of the most common segments to use. And you just go,
like Google
tick,
does a lot of the work for you.
There you go. I'll tell you the other one you just reminded me of, the age, because you're exactly right. The prospect we were talking to the other day, no one is buying their product that's under 30.
Sorry, there's a bunch of biker gangs.
We've got, isn't it? What's going on? But we've got, but you just reminded me. We were talking to prospect the other day, and I said to them, because I saw in the data, because you have age range as well. That's another one.
Yes.
And these are all the ways that brands just waste money, and it's just oh my god. We saw another one where I looked at the last 6 months of their data, and I went into the again, part of the audiences went into the age ranges, and Google breaks down 18 to 24 year olds, 24 to 30, whatever. And we looked at their data and we collated it up, and it worked out that they'd had hundreds and hundreds of clicks and obviously impressions, and spent hundreds of pounds on 18 to 24 year olds. And I said to I was actually doing a video for the prospect, and I said to them, and I sent it to them. I said, how many kids are buying? How many youngsters are buying your product? They were like, never. They were like, no, our demographic is 40, 50 plus. There's no way we just don't sell to kids. These are So, and I said to them, well, you're over the last 6 months, you've spent however many, a few thousand on kids. And they couldn't believe it. And again, how easy is that to switch off and avoid wasting your budget? It's just you check it.
Are you trying to tell me that 18 to 24 year olds don't have a lot of money in this economy?
Hey, some do, but if they do, they're not spending on what this client is that we were looking at. But yeah, that's what I mean. So that's another one.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, there's 3 little letters / numbers for you.
I'm really confused.
G-A-4. Now these seem like hieroglyphics to me.
Right,
but what does it mean?
Not a clue, no. Look, so GA4 is a whole separate thing in its own right. It's the tracking tool from Google, essentially, right? So that's what it is. So don't worry. Okay. Just take a breath. But in terms of from a Google Ads wasting money perspective, the most important thing from GA4, it's one of many tracking tools, but that's often what our clients will be using. Google Analytics, it's the latest version of Google Analytics. The way in which we would use Google Analytics to just check that we're not wasting money when it comes to ads is Google Analytics is going to track what that user does once they've clicked. So once they've clicked your ads, so you've spent all the time and energy creating the ads, getting in front of the right audience. Once they click the ad, they're on your website.
Right.
Well, then what do they do? That's where GA4 is going to tell us, because Google Ads is going to...
surely they're buying things from
Well, of course, you would hope. But, Google Ads is going to tell us everything up to the click. So how they searched, all of that good stuff. But once they've clicked, well, then what? This is where Google Analytics and various other tools come in. So the reason we use that to avoid wasting money is looking at you need to set up the various reports, but looking at the reports within Google Analytics 4, will tell you what the users are doing post the click, so after the click. So for example, you could on paper be going, well, we're getting super relevant search times here, and this is all looking good, and it's the right audience, and we know the audience segments are right, and we know the age range is right, and tick, 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 tick. But if when you go and look at GA4, you see that actually you got a 98% bounce rate, or the dwell time and the engagement metrics are terrible, that means that people that are searching for you are then going onto the website and going, this isn't what I want, and they're leaving.
Right.
If that's happening and you see that consistently with some decent numbers, consistently over time, what that means is maybe there's a misalignment in maybe the landing page isn't right, or the ad isn't right, or somewhere between what the user is searching, the ad they're clicking, and the page you're sending them to, there's a disconnect. Right. If you're not getting the sales, if you're not getting the engagement, then there might be a disconnect. You can't judge that if you're only getting 10, 20 clicks, because you need to get statistically significant numbers to kind of make a judgment. But having a look into GA4 and actually looking at the data and going, what are people doing once they've landed on our website? Are they taking the actions we intend? Are there any bottlenecks? Are there any pages that don't work? Heaven forbid, are you sending them to a page that just doesn't even exist or doesn't work? Yes. We've seen that before. Right? All of these things can be judged with setting up a couple of reports, a couple of dashboards in GA4. You can quite literally visualize the journey of, okay, they click, they go here, this proportion of people are doing this action, these proportion are downloading this, these proportion are clicking through, these ones are viewing the product, these ones are searching. You can see all of that stuff, and then it becomes very actionable, because you can go, based on that, right, I can improve this, I can change that. So GA4 could do a million other things, but from stop wasting your ad budget, just go and check that. And if you are seeing, well, this is not converting, or people are just going and then leaving the page, you need to have a look at, okay, why? What could we do about it? To avoid thinking, well, we're doing great, we're getting loads of relevant clicks, but it's not converting. Have you looked at what they're doing after the click?
It sounds to me like there are lots of easy things you can do with Google Ads that will just give you that knowledge to better understand how you're using your money.
Easy when you know how, right?
It's
easy when and a lot of this stuff is not rocket science.
No.
They're simple stuff, but you're absolutely right, as you said at the top, is all of those things. We probably rattled off 5 or 6 there.
Yeah. I mean,
there's like so many more.
But we don't want to.
Yeah. It's exactly that. But with those, there's probably half a dozen there that we've covered. All of those I see at least every single week from prospective clients' accounts as we're reviewing, and as you say, it's the same stuff. So apologies, but I don't think you're going to hear me banging on about these things on calls anytime soon, because it's the same stuff every single time.
Well, join me next week as I talk about geolocations and audience segments.
There you go. See what a geek off you've had. How lucky are you? Right, there you go.
So much.
There you go. Well, hopefully you've learned some bits as well. Let us know if any of these things resonate with you. If you think, I like that one, I'm going to go and check that. We'd love to know. And we'll see you on the next T.E A Talks. All the best.
See you later.